behalf of the Democratic State Party and the Democratic Local Party, we'd like to welcome our special guests, the Etheridge, and all the rest of you people to Audrey and my home. I think I've told many of you here tonight, we lived here 41 years. So we've been around here a little while in Leavenworth. And Melissa was at the Carousel Museum today, and I was explaining to her how it took us 5 years to redo the horses, and we built the building there and everything. And one of the things that happened was a lady by the name of Marguerite Strange, she was a wonderful lady that lived here in town. She'd been mayor of the city, she was the secretary at the courthouse. She did a lot of things, and at the time we were building the Carousel building, we put the carousel together, which was all made out of apple wood. You know, we had people come out of Kansas City that helped us carve the ears and the hoofs and all that kind of stuff, and then paint them. We got it together, and the one thing we didn't have was a band organ. So today, Melissa was at the Carousel Museum, and I told them, you make sure you shoulder the band organ that Marguerite called her and asked her, I think it was like $42,000. And she said, well, who do I make the check out to? And Marguerite told her that you make it out to the Leavenworth Historical Museum Association, because that's our organization that has 3 museums here in town. We have the Carousel Museum, the National Fred Harvey Museum, and the First City Museum. And we work on those all the time. But I also wanted to talk just for a minute for Melissa about Marguerite Strange. She was a wonderful lady, and when we first got to know her, we found out, oh my goodness, she is really a staunch Republican.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, my oldest daughter, who was a state representative for 6 years, one of the times that she was a state representative, she was in the National Guard, and of course, she got called to active duty and went to Iraq. Well, while she was gone to Iraq, Marguerite came to me one day and told me, she says, I'm just really depressed. I said, well, what's wrong? And she says, we just had this meeting of the ladies of the Leavenworth Republican Party, and they were putting together boxes to send to soldiers in Iraq. And she says, I had asked your wife about Melanie's address so that she could get a box sent to her. Well, when she presented that to the other ladies, now hang on to your hats, she was told, Marguerite, you don't understand. We don't send boxes or anything to Democratic soldiers. And she told me, she even cried. She was so unhappy with it. Well, she hobnobbed around with us for a while, and unfortunately, when she died, and they had the funeral at the church, the Democratic ladies came and they brought a beautiful bouquet for her and set it down, in the front of the church. And this is the truth now. Her daughter went up, grabbed that bouquet, took it downstairs, and threw it in the wastebasket. And she told Audrey and I, she says, my mother was a staunch Republican all her life, but she died a Democrat. So, anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting story.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, is there any questions you'd like to ask about the house that I might be able to answer? Anybody?
What year was it built?
We're going to go by what it says in the library, which is 1859, from the street books that they have down there. If you go by the state, they say it was built in 1869. So, but regardless, it's well over 100 years old. So it's been here a long time. And let me just mention too, I think probably the main reason that it's in the condition that it's in today is because in 1911, a gentleman by the name of Hiram Wilson Wilson with one L. He was the CEO of the Great Western Stove Manufacturing Company, bought the house, and he hired a company out of Kansas City to come and remodel the house. And his objective was to have a house at that time that had rooms big enough so he could invite people and have dinners and decent parties. So during 1911 and 1912, they rebuilt the house. And the house used to be, at that time, that was the outer wall right there. On the other side in the parlor, that was added, the porch was added, 2 bedrooms upstairs was added, a sleeping room, and then, of course, the solarium where they raised all their herbs to cook with back there. So we bought the house, Audrey and I bought the house we signed the contract in 1980 and moved in January of 1981. Anybody here lived in Kansas in 1981 in January? Remember what kind of winter we had? Yeah. To get the moving van up to the house, we had to hire 2 towing trucks to winch it all the way up to the house. That's the only way we got it here. And the mover people slept in the dining room for 3 nights while they were unloading our furniture because it was so cold. Any other questions, or have I talked long enough?
I'll take it from here.
Okay.
You got it.
All right, Sherry Groden. I'm the chairwoman for Leavenworth County Democrats and also 2nd District chairperson of the Kansas Democratic Party. Thank you for being here. I also want to thank everyone who helped with the food today. And Dell and Audrey, thank you for opening up your home. We really appreciate it. We have a couple people here with the Kansas Democratic Party. We have Vicki Hyatt. Who's Vicki Hyatt? She's the chairperson for the state party. We have George Hanna, our secretary. Ben Mears, the executive director. Where's Ben? Back there. Alex Braze, our digital media person. Brenna Duffy, finance director. Josh Wassinger, the operations director. And I also want to recognize Marty Crow and Debbie Deere, former legislators. Hi Marty, back there in the back. Thank you for being here. But what I really wanted to say is we're going to need all hands on deck in 2020. While we're here, our Leavenworth County Republican friends are down at the Heritage Center and they're rallying up the troops to get on the Trump train. So it's really important that we have all hands on deck, like I said. But
the Trump train, right?
My next thing I'd like to do is introduce Representative Jeff Pittman.
Where is he?
Hey, thanks, Sherry.
I met your mom.
She met my mom. Best behavior now. I want to thank you all for coming out here to Leavenworth. This is my district. I live my wife and I, Holly's right here. Let's give her a round of applause real quick. She's amazing. We live about 3 blocks down. And this district is a historic district. I'm so excited that you all have come here. I went to the high school today where Melissa and her wife went. Are you guys married?
Yes, you
Okay. I was like, wait a second. Awesome. Gotta ask in Kansas.
Thank you. You're sweet.
But they went and they hung out with the kids, and it was such an amazing moment of authenticity. It was amazing to see the kids talk authentically and have Melissa come in and chat about her experiences here in Leavenworth. And I think that's what we're really seeking here is that authentic, that person up there is more than just a glossy front. There's something in there, you know, and that's what my wife and I try to do. That's what we've been doing here over the last 4 years, is trying to build authenticity into the political areas and getting involved with the community. One of the stories one of the ladies told me, get this, a lot of you guys are from what, England, from LA, Massachusetts, Montreal. We've got a contingent here, and I am so excited to have you here in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Mars.
And Mars.
Woo, Mars!
And one of the stories I heard was when they were on, so this is a group of super fans, they were on this cruise with Melissa, and they were going into Puerto Rico, and it had just been affected by the hurricane. And they went in, and what Melissa did was she built up some guitars and some things like that, sold them at auction, and contributed a $30,000 donation to Puerto Rico. That's the kind of person Melissa is. That's the kind of people we aspire to be in our community, is to raise money for those folks, but importantly, to let government work for those people. Brownback was in here. He basically decimated our government. They were anti-government. They are anti-Medicaid expansion, anti-schools, all these anti-things that we're for. And coming into that, Debbie and I, we had to make some tough decisions. And we fought against that and restored some of our state sanity. With that in mind, I just wanted to take the moment to say I'm going to step up from representative, and I'm now running for the state senate. So just wanted to make that little announcement, and welcome you all to our little community here in Leavenworth, and I hope you had a great time. And thank you, Melissa, for coming to our community.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and I did forget one former legislator, Miss Kelly Coulter here. Thank you. I didn't mean to do that. Next up is Vicki Hyatt. Vicki is going to introduce Melissa.
There she
Thank you all for coming tonight. This is such a great honor as the KDP to have such a wonderful celebrity to come and join us. Just to give you a little bit of information about Melissa Etheridge, she stormed onto the American rock scene in 1988 with the release of her critically acclaimed self-titled debut album, which led to an appearance on the 1989 Grammy Awards show. Etheridge hit her commercial and artistic stride with her fourth album, Yes I Am, in 1993. And the collection featured the massive hits, I'm the Only One, and Come to My Window. And that, of course, is a searing song of longing that brought Etheridge her second Grammy Award for Best Female Rock Performance. And then in 1995, Etheridge issued her highest charting album, Your Little Secret. Known for her confessional lyrics and raspy, smoky vocals, Etheridge has remained one of America's favorite female singer-songwriters for more than 2 decades. In February of 2007, we're going to give you a break on that. We didn't want to own all of that. So. In February of 2007, Melissa Etheridge celebrated a career milestone with a victory in the Best Song category at the Academy Awards for I Need to Wake Up, which was written for the Al Gore documentary on global warming and Inconvenient Truth. As a performer and a songwriter, Etheridge has shown herself to be an artist who has never allowed inconvenient truth to keep her down. Earlier in her recording career, Etheridge acknowledged her sexual orientation when it was considered less than prudent to do so. In October 2004, Etheridge was diagnosed with breast cancer, a health battle that, with her typical tenacity, she won. On October 7th, 2016, Melissa Etheridge released Memphis Rock and Soul. The album received stellar reviews, and she followed that up with the release of The Medicine Show in April of 2019. The Medicine Show deals with universal themes of renewal, reconciliation, reckoning, compassion, and most profoundly, healing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Please welcome Melissa Etheridge.
This is fun. I've had such a wonderful day. I have taken some of my biggest fans all around this city, and it's brought up so many memories for me. And when he was talking about Marguerite Strange, she was just one of my best friend's mother. He was my best friend. His name was Mike Strange. He's still alive. I just saw him last night. But he, like we went to kindergarten together. He used to walk, back when you'd let kindergartners just walk around, you know. And we used to walk to the babysitters. We'd walk up to, you know, Winstead's, and, you know, not anymore. But we used to go there, and he was just my best friend. He was my first kiss and that sort of thing, you know. Just a sweetheart. So Marguerite, I knew Marguerite for a long time. There's a behind the music or something that he's in, and it's really funny. He was like, "Yeah, no, we didn't do anything. We just kissed. That's all." That's it. But it's funny being in this house, because 18 years, I would ride around here, and whenever we'd go down Broadway was the place where all the fancy houses were. And I knew one person that lived in a house, and it was the Careys. They were like the only Mormon family I knew in the whole town. And they did this beautiful old house that's further down that had an elevator in it and all this, and it was really fancy. And these houses are so historic. And Dell took us, Linda and I, all around and showed us. And it's funny because I'd never been inside any of these houses. I mean, I didn't know any fancy families, and it's just it's so great to see them take such care of, you know, these historical pieces of Leavenworth. Because as I was driving, you know, these strangers around who've never, no, you're not strangers to me, but you know, you've never been here before, I was really recognizing how historical this city is, and how the history is here just goes on and on, from the fort to this being the first city of Kansas, and there's just a lot that happened here. And coming here and helping the Democratic Party now, it means so much to me. When I was raised, my mother was a Democrat and my father was a Republican. And I didn't understand at the time that they were against each other. I didn't understand that that's how it works, because they were, my mother would have me, I remember watching the Democratic convention where they elected Humphrey. And he was all in black and white, and I'm like, what is this? And she explained the whole process. And my father, I remember watching the one where they elected, you know, Nixon, and he was a Republican right about till when Nixon happened, and then he stopped being because he came from the Republican. He was a working family. I mean, he's a migrant family. He came from, you know, Republicans were about labor and the work, and so that's how I always understood them. He always spoke about, you know, the unions and the people, and just seeing how through time the change that's happened now, the Democrats, because my mother was a Southern Democrat, you know, she came from Arkansas, so this whole change of what the Republican Party is and the Democrat is now, and the experience of growing up in this area, being gay, but certainly, I mean, we weren't out, you know, we were with our friends maybe, but not even then. I left here, but every time I would come back here, there was an openness. This town is open to diversity. It always has been. You see, I mean, the mayor. Oh my gosh, he's wonderful. You're so right. He's amazing. He's just what a great story, and just that sort of feeling here in this town. So, having been in the world now, having, you know, I met everybody and talked to them twice, and you know, they having raised funds for Bill Clinton, having, you know, I met Bill, I met Hillary, I've met Obama, I've done many things for all of these you know, candidates. Having been at the top of that, that's not where things happen. That's not where the change happens. The change happens right here. The change happens locally. All politics are local. Everything is. So to know that I've been able to bring some of my fans who have supported this and helped you all, it means so much to elect just people who aren't in it for, how can we make this money and how can the money work for us, and I've met them, I've hung around them, and they're not so much them. I'm really not. I'm not for the us and them. I'm for. They have a different perspective, just about how life is, and it's from a standpoint of there's not enough, and so if there isn't enough, then somebody has to do with less, and it's that old thought that the Democratic Party is changing. It's not about there's not enough. There is enough. And yes, and we can bring that in and show the world that what having enough is taking care of our health and understanding health care and moving into better health care. Not just, just the discussion being, health care for everyone doesn't mean, everyone's just gonna live off the, the welfare of it. It's about understanding health and how we can change health, having been now 15 years cancer-free, thank you. I understand that, and the whole private sort of way that the medical community kind of keeps everything very, there's change that can happen there, and it's going to start within the Democratic Party. We all have been feeling what's going on. We've seen what happens when that sort of corporate greed gets elected and takes over, and it's horrible, and we see that, and that is when we come together. When the job needs to get done, that's when we come together. So if I can support you by bringing people, I will always be supporting my Kansas Democrats. I was so thrilled when the governor was elected. And then I was helping Sharice Davids. That's historic. So that's from that coming out of Kansas. Growing up in Kansas, I always felt like this was it was the state that had that free. Are we going to be free? Are we going to be slave? Are we going to back then? And they were like, no, the free. That's where the Jayhawk term came from. It was about this. We're going to be free. And so growing up here, understanding that just south of us there was a very different thought about that sort of has become something else. This Kansas, I think, is where this next election we're going to start seeing that change. It's going to be. I loved it. The last election, it was like, look, that's going blue. And it's a really great feeling.
We're just getting started.
It's beautiful. So what I would tell you is, let's be the party that is for something. That what doesn't work is being against. And I love how that's, the Republicans have taken a point of we are against this, we are against that, and it sort of defines them. And so we have to be for. And because this change is big and it's huge, and as Elizabeth Warren says, the big structural change, that's coming, it's going to be scary for those that have been in power and control. And so bringing everyone in, understanding that it doesn't have to be painful, that we can all move forward into a beautiful future that we need. That's what we're going to do.
Amen.
And I'm here to help you guys. I'm probably going to be around next summer. I hope we do something next summer. Let's get together. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. So you all came all this way, and some of you just down the street. But I would love to spend a moment and take some pictures with you, okay? For those who would like to. So let's
figure out a good spot.
Where's the Melissa selfie stick?
Exactly.